and bring it all in. And thank you so much. And this is what we know. We know that there is only one God, one Spirit, one presence that is here with us at this point. And I know as that presence is here within me, that essence is here within everyone present. And with that energy and that love coming in and flowing into this room, there is so much gratitude for the knowledge that will be shared, so much happiness at coming together, and love with each other that is shared in this moment. And I am blessed, I am so grateful. And I release my word to law, knowing that tonight is a good night and full of harmony and laughter. And so it is. So here comes the party that I've been promising you all. Party, I've been saying party. So here's the question I want you to ponder. Is what is it that we are seeking? Is it God we are seeking, or are we seeking something from God? What is it that we are seeking?
We're seeking God.
Yeah, we should be seeking.
Okay. So we're seeking God. Then how do we do that?
By going within. Because God is within.
And what does that mean?
That means listening to your intuition. It
Okay.
means meditating. It means knowing that we are divine beings and we are light and love and kindness and peace and joy and all those things, and expressing them into the world.
Right. So when we ask God then for something, like we do in treatments, or we ask for knowledge or knowing that we're healthy or that we're wealthy or that we're wise, are we asking something from God then, or are we asking from ourselves?
Yes.
Yes. Who are you asking? Yes.
Depends on who you identify with. You know, if I identify with my higher self, I'm not a seeker, I'm a finder.
Do you want to expand on that just a little bit?
Well, I'm already one with everything. All my
Right.
knowledge is available. Akashic records are open. So I just manifest stuff. If, you know, something comes up that I need, I just find it.
It's just available.
It's just there.
Okay. How many of us here today know that we are God? In every step. In every breath.
In every breath. Oh, now what?
In every ache and pain. In every check that we send out. And all those things that we perceive as like that cause us stress and worry and you know, anxiety or all of that. How do we find God then?
Breathe.
You breathe. How do you find God? I'm forgetting. Amanda, is that correct?
Yeah. Walk in the woods.
A walk in the woods.
And flowers.
And flowers.
Flowers. Are you a gardener?
Yes.
Okay. So touching the soil, smelling that fragrance. Right. How do you find God?
It's kind of like either remember all the things that has happened in my past that proved to me that the Creator was there, that I wasn't alone. So that's one way.
Okay. So you look back and you go, I wasn't alone, like I've come all this way.
Right.
How do you find God, Mike?
Well, you know, that's what I was saying. You think about all these questions that really kind of tie together. It's like, I know what it's stuff. Intellectually, I know it's.
Right.
Meditating, being quiet, and all that. But I'm still seeking that. That's what I put on my bookmark. Was that's what I'm really wanting. As I thought about it. Get the money and life going smooth and all that stuff. It really comes down to being connected. Because it seems like when you're connected, you know it. from everything I've been reading, it just happens all by itself,
Right,
right? You don't have to ask for anything. Everything is already known. You just gotta get out of the way to let it flow, and it'll just happen all on its own. And you just think of things and they show up and things like that. This is what I'm looking for, how to really make that connection. I have all this intellectual knowledge, but I want to experience it, I want to feel that
right.
connection, really, not just, yeah, I go to this place, everything's cool. It's really. And that I don't know. That's why I'm here.
That's an excellent answer. That's why I'm here too. And I think we all learn from each other. So, going to the earth, meditation, breathing,
Reconnecting.
remembering,
Making every act a magical act.
say that again?
Making every act a magical
Every act is a magical act. Charlie, what about you?
That sort of reminds me that every once in a while you see a sign that, you know, if you found Jesus, the wise ass answer is always, I didn't know he was lost.
Right.
To me, I've sort of got to the point where I'm not looking for God. I know where God is, and it's not a he, as much as I would like to be one of those old white-haired men sitting up on a cloud. God is not an entity, it's a presence.
Right.
And I know that, and it gives me a tremendous amount of peace. I can relax into you know, heart surgery or brain surgery or whatever, and I just know everything's fine.
So whatever incident comes up, it's all
Yeah.
fine, it is all God.
Sometimes I bitch and moan for a while, but I always settle in a lot
Right.
more quickly than I used
Right,
to that knowing.
right. Fran, do you want to share?
I just remember that I've been through a lot of different things, and I'm here.
Okay. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
Valerie.
Much like Valerie was saying, that you're here because of all those things. Jenny,
What was the question?
how do you know God? How do you know you are God?
See,
One
Are
of
you
the,
seeking God? Are
yes,
you seeking something from
but I
Him?
know it as they were saying intellectually. I know a lot about it. But I think I'm working on and practicing meditation at a deeper level, because I do believe that our intuition and our subconscious are the connection.
Mhm.
It's not in the conscious mind. That's human level. To really get deeper is where I'm working on.
Right. Right, Drew?
I'm still working on the ludicrous fact, in my view, that I am part, not a subpart, but part of everyone, and all of us are part of an infinite, and we are different points, like particles that are connected no matter how different and how many. They're all interwoven, and you can experience an electron over here and the same person over here with the same electron. It's just bizarre. By virtue of you viewing a photon, it changes, you know. It's this ludicrousness of that I am part of it all, and it is all part of us, and we're all these parts of it. And we're seeking ourselves, that's God, big God, and our, I guess, little God, you know, whatever. But we're all one, we're all that infinite. But we forgot where we put it, because we went to another room and forgot what we were thinking about.
Okay.
You know, so it's like that ludicrousness, like, oh, where are my keys? I know it, you know.
Right.
But we're still there, we're still on that path. We're seeking ourselves, but where are they ourselves? Wait a minute. We're these, you know, connected particles of, wow.
Yeah.
Dennis, I'm gonna get everyone to say something.
One of the
light and moments I can experience. I kind of learned it from this Zen teacher, Shunryu Suzuki.
Yeah.
And he said, everyone you see as Buddha, right?
Everyone you see, pardon?
See as Buddha.
Okay.
Right? You know, I try to remember doing that when I'm out and about during the day. You know, going to the bookstore, going to the mall, and it makes life so much fun when everyone, you say, oh, or, you know, or say, you know, well, there's God, there's God, there's God, you know, because that's what God is. God is all, you know, whether you're looking at a person or a blade of grass. Now you have to throw a lot of things, garbage out the window, like politics sometimes, you know, that makes it kind of rough because I've been brought up in a very political manner, you know, I've raised myself that way, so that makes it a little tougher when, you know, especially when everybody's, you know, at each other's, seemingly at each other's throats, when you see somebody on TV or something, you know. It is a challenge, but it's, it can be a joy if you practice it.
Right. Okay. Good. So we're answering kind of the question, is it God we are seeking, or are we seeking something from God? And I'm asking people, how do they find, or how do they connect to God?
Go.
Do you have a, well,
Do I
let's
have
go
an
to
answer
B.
for you?
We'll give you a moment.
Is that what you're asking?
We'll give you a second, and then we have, that's what we're discussing. So, what would you say?
I was thinking about it as you were all talking. It's sort of like a little of everybody, what everybody said, it's bits and pieces. But for me at this point, it seems my intellect is still looking for what is God. My something, intuition, but it's a felt sense, is in here, that I just know it is. I can't put it into words, I can't intellectualize it, but it's sort of, it's just there.
Right.
But I don't know what it is.
Yeah? Do you want to jump in again?
Yeah, it just seemed like we're looking for, like there was an analogy about the key, that was really good for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like we're looking for more good. That's what it appears. It's like wherever I know that I am the creator, great. I got that. However, when I get to put things into action, sometimes my formula for doing so works. Sometimes that formula doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to remember, well, what did I do before that brought this to be? And at other times, it doesn't matter what I do, I just can't find it. That
Right.
key, that connection. So it's like you're looking for, yes, you're looking for God, which means you are looking for yourself, you're looking for more good, and you're looking for that thing that we need to align ourselves back with in order to execute what we're looking for, to
Mm-hmm.
experience, or who we are.
Right. That takes me back to B, because that feeling that when you know that you're touching the divine or something, it's like, now what?
Yes.
What do I do with this?
Yes.
That's how I feel. And then I start crying, you know. And then I go to Barbara, and Barbara says, do you see that wall? I say, yes. And she goes, touch the wall. And so I touch the wall. And she helps me ground back, because I just start feeling like I'm lifting off somewhere sometimes. So, and then I'm back on earth, and I'm like kicking some kid out of my class at the same time thinking, I'm trying to love him, I'm doing the right thing, but out, get out.
Good God, man, it's really hard for God.
I control the content of my class, and you're not it.
Would you rephrase the question?
What do you see, the question that I came across, and it's actually from Joel Goldsmith's book, you know, that we need to ask ourselves, what are we seeking? Are we seeking God? Or are we seeking something from God? And as we move into health-related spirituality, I guess, or health-related stuff out of Troward. I'm just kind of trying to find where people are in terms of, where are you when, what, are you seeking something from God, or how do you find God? How do you sit with it?
What I'm looking for, which I actually felt more of since this class began, is the peace.
Peace.
It just is, which is as difficult to explain as Troward. It just is.
Right.
The language is being more, I'm being more aware of my language, so that I don't have any negative thinking popping out there. Not even swearing like I usually do, so I know something's changed internally. And that was what I was looking for.
Okay, good. Good. Susie, were you gonna say something?
Yeah,
Do you wanna say something now?
no, well, actually, yeah, in some ways, it, seems like the answer would be the same, you know, like yes to both kind of thing. So, for me, there needs to be some degree of discipline and being still, whether you call it meditation or looking at the trees or whatever, to bring me to that place. So that translates into a really glorious feeling of connection with something. But the real connection that I feel in actuality, I think that I get, is when I connect with another person.
Right.
It could be standing online somewhere at the post office and somebody grumbling and maybe turning around and smiling at that person and knowing that I helped changing something, I helped change something in them, or someone smiling at me when I'm feeling lousy and changing something in me. But it's that connection, because the person, whether it's coming at me or I'm giving it out, is God, you know,
Right.
I mean, it's God in action.
Right.
So it's two people, I mean, the power of more than just this, you know, single entity is what does it for me, the connection with something else. So it could be the invisible connection, but for me it becomes more apparent and much stronger when it's with another person, another thing.
Okay, I think that's a good point. Breezy?
Can you just reiterate the question again for me? Because I can't remember.
That's okay. I think it changes slightly every time I say it, doesn't it? The question comes from Joel Goldsmith. What are we seeking? Are we seeking God, or are we seeking something from God? And my question is, how do you find God in yourself then?
Well, mine is I don't like the term God to begin with, so I always change that immediately to spirit or energy.
Okay.
Whatever. And
okay, how do you connect with spirit energy?
Well, to me, it's a given that you're already connected with it.
Okay.
And so feeling that I have to strive to connect with it, it's not an issue, because you don't, you already are. And it's just how you transmute it when it comes through you.
Do you want to expand on that last piece, how you transmute it when it comes to you?
Like finding peace, like
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
Whatever, you know, whatever you're thinking is in regards to that.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me your name again.
I'm Tom.
You're Tom. I know my mind is
That's a
short
hard
and
name.
tonight.
T-A-U-M, Tommy Swan.
Okay.
Got it?
All right. Thomas Troward. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah. So, I like her is. A lot of my friends call God isness, or just is now, or spirit. And that you can become totally one with everything. And that's the subjective mind, you know. But we come back, you know, in this ego world to pick out different movies to play in here.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do, well, you can be aware of both, but usually you're either there or here.
Right.
And you're all of it.
Right.
But not really a problem.
All right. And our camera woman,
Yes,
did you want to participate or do you
Yes.
want to just do
it's
camera
fun,
stuff?
well, it's funny because you asked that question, and I find God in nature,
Okay.
and I also find God within myself when I'm shooting, not guns, when I'm shooting, and, like today when we were out, it was just like, it was like nirvana. It was like, I was just like, you know, surrounded by all this beauty, and it's like, you kind of become one with it, you know, and for me, you know, it's the I am. And, you know, I've honed that since I've been coming here, because I used to have a whole different, you know, I ignored it, I didn't want to deal with it. And, but I've found that my church is nature, and that's where I go for spiritual replenishment.
Okay, good. So, does anyone have anything they want to add to all of this? Because this is a good discussion, yeah.
I just look at all of these teachings, Troward, Everett, science, and we're going way back to magical teachings, to druids, and everything. All of this says in most of their Talmuds, everything, way of being, you know, key of Solomon, everything. They all touch on a lot of these things. They're all these very ancient ways. But it's all the science of mind and everything. It's all, we already know this stuff. We're just being reminded
Right.
that we know. You know, we just walked through a door and forgot where our keys were.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, oh yeah. Because it all resonates. When you hit somebody with some of this stuff, they're like, oh yeah, and the words just aren't there to go, I already knew that, but I didn't know I knew that. And it's just, does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And yet part of that paradox is, you know, we're reading Troward and he's very heavy-handed in his language based on the time that he was writing, right? You know, it was all very Christian, very, very much male and all of that. And it's like, that stuff doesn't bother me. It used to. You know, I'm in the program, I was in the program for a very long time, still am kind of, but I think of the center as my program at this point. And I used to sit down with the big book and I was like one of those radical feminists and I was like, crossing out he, you know, the big, you know how thick the big book is and how poorly written it is overall, and that was just a chore, and I still have that book, and sometimes I laugh about that. Now, today actually is my sobriety day, and I posted that I've been sober something like, what is it, 15,050, 15,505 days.
How many years? How many years is that, Kate?
Oh, it's a while.
I'm 27.
It's 37.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of surprised me this morning because it was like I'm working on, part of what I have come to realize is that my past really, like this story kind of has no bearing any longer.
Right.
Because everything I do is new, you know.
The past is no longer relevant.
Right, and as I changed, even the student that I mentioned earlier, you know, I initially, a year ago, that would have been a big blow up. We would have all been in the dean's office and I would have been like, you know, get my back type of thing. And instead, the student came to me right after class and apologized. And even though I had like said out of my class, right? Because he crossed a line that we had all discussed and he went over it. And it was like, you're gone. And so I have very clear boundaries in my classes because I have to maintain a level of safety for everyone. And so, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we're being recorded.
Well, we're getting recorded on that,
Are we?
but not the audio.
You don't really hear that much about.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's
the
mostly
audio is in here.
Thanks, Kristen's not here.
It's Kristen. Okay. It's
The one time she's not here.
Doing her job.
Okay, what we're discussing is Goldstein, and the question is, what are we seeking? Are we seeking God or are we seeking something from God? And there's been quite a lively discussion with a lot of input, and you will catch up.
Eventually.
Pardon?
I'm not gonna summarize.
Aren't you gonna turn the mic towards you?
Well, I really would prefer to hear the people when I listen to the recording. But, thank you. Is that why you had your hand up? Thank you very much. So, and the interesting thing about this student was that the question was about prayer in school. And one of that class just stopped functioning. The student was doing a presentation on we should have prayer in school. And he hadn't done the research, and he was saying, if we had prayer in school, everyone would start out on a better footing. And I thought, well, that's probably true. But then he started asking people in the class if they prayed and if they had a Bible. And I was like, you know, as that went on, I'm like, you're done. And he wouldn't stop. So I just left it, told him to leave the class. But, but he's going to do it again. He's going to try to do it again. He's redoing his presentation, and on Friday, he's going to do it again. And I thought, God, that's so different from a year ago. And the difference is me. It has nothing to do with this young man. The difference is me, right? And so I can see that. And I don't feel like I was God interacting with him, but I know that God was somewhere there, right? Where last year, I don't know if I would have been that certain that God was present in my activity. But I knew that. I knew that. So how do you get connected is key, especially when we're going into like health, because so much happens to us all the time. It just is life. It just is God's life that we're living. We're going to trip, we're going to fall, there might be this, there might be that, there's a sniffle. You know, we can, you know, I say that, I feel like I'm blaspheming in science of mind, but the truth is that we get these things kind of like we're human, and if this happens, has no bearing on our real spiritual makeup. And then it does, because what we put into it is what manifests, right?
And yet it does.
And yet we're going to get it anyway.
Right.
So when for health, this is my question, because I struggle with this question. And I've been, you know, I'm looking, I've read through it, there's some things I want to make sure that we raise. But, so when is it that we bring it to us, and when is it just life? We've been doing our absolute best. We pray. We've been out in the garden. We've been walking in the wood. We're reading the books. We're talking to people. We feel connected. And we wake up in the morning with a cold. Or we go to school and someone crosses the boundary that you had set. Or someone pulls in front of you. Those things have nothing to do with who we are. There was Jenny, and then I think it was Janet, and then Susie, and then Tom.
Where are we going with this?
I don't know
I was
yet.
going
I
to
tried
talk
to
about
have an
something
idea,
else.
but this
Okay.
question's important to me at this point.
Well, I think the humanity is at a stage. And
Okay.
we have been going through stages for a long time,
Okay.
over and over again.
Okay.
And the discovery aspect that you mentioned is extremely important. I think we're rediscovering a lot that got squelched for a long time.
I agree.
Thousands of years, actually. It's not just recent.
I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to redirect just a little bit.
Okay.
What about you? How do you deal with it? If you're connected, everything's going well? Because we can talk on a theoretical level about how our culture, race consciousness, we do this, we're rediscovering. We are the vanguard. We had that question that very first night. But individually now, as we're dealing with health, how does that happen for you? What does that look like?
Well, it's a process that I continually go through as far as reminding myself of all the things that we intellectually know about God and our process,
Right.
where I am in my stage, and flipping as much as possible to a positive, because I know that's the only true value, and that helps tremendously.
Okay.
And also circumstances we do bring upon ourselves to learn from. It is a vibration we're sending out. We're going to get back all these things that are around us and the human challenges.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's how fast can you flip it to the positive, to a progressive attitude about life. And It's taken me many years to do this.
Right, it takes many years in practice.
And I realize too that it is a combination, as far as I'm concerned. I don't judge myself anymore like I used to, because I thought I was, being lazy and all kinds of things, but I realize that the only way to get to a positive is to continually think of a positive and switch it whenever it's not. And at one point when I woke up and I saw it was raining again, I thought, I'm going to pretend that I just arrived here on Earth and see what's happening. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? There's water coming out of the sky. And I went through this whole process for some time, and I went from a really downward plight to immediately switching.
Right.
And I think we have to use our imagination and our intuition to help us more than we're aware of. Our intellect is not the answer.
Right, right. And that kind of goes to what a member here a couple of weeks ago said, that she believes that there is a moment of grace if we can flip the phrase.
Yes.
Right. You were going to say something. Do you recall it?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you said that it was nothing that the student had done, it was the way you behave changed his perception. And as she's saying, when you turn around and smile at somebody looking grumpy, you're changing their perception. And
maybe he changed mine. He's quite the strong Christian. and maybe he went out of the room and was like, I just love her. And maybe he changed mine.
Could be.
It's both, right? Could be. That's a good point. I actually hadn't thought that through until right now. Is that, you good? Thank you for saying that. See? If we don't get you, if we don't just let you talk, it's gone. Is that the problem?
Are you referring to a senior moment?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because many of us can have many thoughts, and if we don't say them right away, then something else takes hold.
What were we talking about?
What was the question? I mean,
I'm asking people now that we've talked about where we find God, how do we do that when we're in the midst
the illness
of
thing.
something?
Okay, big time, the illness thing, right, okay.
It's easy when we,
It
have
is so
time and we
easy.
can go to the
Yeah.
nature and we can, go for a walk and we know and divine presence, and then all of a sudden there is something there that we're dealing with. And then how do you find God?
So, yeah, I mean, intense physical or intense emotional pain has a way to take over, and so I should speak of my own experience, and everything else is blocked out. So the knowledge is there, and getting through it is, I mean, I've gotten better at it, but I don't deny, like in some, it has been said or I've interpreted, it's not real and it's not there. I don't go there. It's as real as anything else because I'm feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
It is real. Is it the be all and all? No. Is there a way around it? Yes. And the more aware I am of what life really is, the easier it's going to be to get through it.
Right.
So the question about, I've been doing everything right. I've been reading the right books, I've been meditating, blah, 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 and I wake up with a cold.
Mm-hmm.
It should be only a cold, and I wake up with whatever. Why did that happen? Where I go with that is, it's not personal. It's not personal because it could feel like, what am I being punished for? What did I do? And even what do I need to be learning?
Right.
Maybe, I mean, we always need to be learning, but maybe it's not about learning. Maybe it's a simple thing of cause and effect, which is more or less my God. I don't like the word either because of where it takes me, but so cause and effect. So somewhere in my subconscious, or whatever he calls that mind, something took place. There was a thought, there was something. It could have been from, 30 years ago. It's in there, and because it's in there, it's causing an effect that's showing up
Right.
now, at this moment. Can I do anything about it? you know, in the moment, I probably can. Can I prevent this from happening again? And there's where I have to go into the awareness thing. And I like analyzing, and I like looking for the root of where did it start, and when did I first feel this? I like that stuff. A lot of people don't. But you find out really cool things about yourself, and they dissipate. It's amazing. Once it's discovered, it's dissipated.
Right. It's as simple as saying, I need to rest, or I wish I had taken more time, or that whole story about from Rochester to the airport back to Atlanta and then how I got home. Is that, you know, there was like this one phrase and this thought that kind of like snowballed, right? Or if I say on the way home, I wish I didn't have to go to work tomorrow, I'm tired, maybe I'll wake up tired in the morning. I don't know, but that's not a negative thought, that's just like a process of life, right? So there is no blame there.
No blame.
No blame.
No blame.
Yeah, Drew.
We're really good at beating ourselves up.
Right.
You know, from the unconscious internal monologue, even to the conscious, into the verbalization of, you know, I'm this, or I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And every little button that everyone's installed on you from birth till now, that most likely is not true at all. We still believe it. I mean, like my mother, she still verbalizes stuff that her mother, she's long gone. And, you know, it's just like, I mean, so we're still, even though we change our inner monologue, and we change what we're doing to be in the oneness, to be away from total drama island and the drama tetrahedron, because it's not a triangle, it's a tetrahedron, it needs an audience, so there's another point to it. And to be in the oneness and to be away from that, so that can't touch you. We're all doing this whole, yes, we're changing our inner monologue. Yes, we're being in the oneness. Yes, we're being all love and everything else, but we still have our computer. Right. Our subconscious, which that still is echoing those inner monologues of this. Every time you drop something, you call yourself an idiot because your brother called you that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that kind of stuff. So we're trying to, I mean, it's like we're trying to reprogram our subconscious computer to talk with our conscious a bit, to initiate source, which is us and divine, and we're all, so we're like chasing our tails a little bit to go, aha, that's what, so getting to that point when you start changing your subconscious, your computer, because it's neither negative nor positive, has no polarity, it just gives you what it wants you to tell the story and things. So unconsciously, those echoes are still there bouncing around, and they're still there like the, I'm gonna put out the negative, oh, it's raining.
Right.
Yay, it's raining, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, wait a minute, switch it, but your almost default setting is going back to the negative in your head, still resounding. It's like, it takes a while to reset that computer.
Right. So, absolutely. So people who've been here since the beginning, can you hear the echo of everything we've said over the last 6 weeks? From the very beginning of what everybody is saying is it's an elevated level of where we started. Almost the same thing, but with a whole new awareness back of it, which is really exciting, isn't it? Because that's exactly what Drew is talking about, is that in order to move forward, even with these concepts of perceived illness or these circumstances that just happen, are we in control or not? If we're changing our frame of reference, then it's not the same reference that we pull out of you know, it's not like pulling the rabbit out of the hat anymore. We're pulling God out of the hat, right? We don't need a magic trick like that. So, and that goes back to everything that we talked about, that self-awareness, about when we can do that. That's what you're all talking about. How do we talk to ourselves? What's our self-concept? What's our understanding of who we are? Who are we hanging with? What's our frame of reference when something happens, right? So as we bring that forward into health, how many of you would like a different state of health than what you have right now? Is there anything that I would like couple things different? I know that, you know, And I think most people walk around with an image of themselves that may not be exactly who they are. And that's a good thing too. You want to project, act as if, right? And so that's the question we're at now. And so if we're heading into that, and he says, goes back to what Drew was just saying as well, he says the wrong belief, which is really only a condition, is the primary cause. And so it's key that we look at that frame of reference when things happen. Yes?
I wanted to reference your idea about a boundary, because Ken Wilber is in this idea that if you get rid of all your boundaries, then you are whole, and you don't have any defense, and consequently you don't have any disease. So, I mean, that's my reference in
Right.
life.
Boundary. Oh, because I was talking about boundaries
Yeah,
with my
the
student.
minute you make a boundary with anything,
Mhm.
you're creating the separation. Split brain, the minute you have a split brain, you have disease of some sort
Duality.
that can manifest, okay? You know, you're no longer whole, complete right now. So that's like, and he goes through all the different boundaries that, you can
Right.
create, whatever.
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, for my class, I'm going to continue creating fictitious boundaries for
Right.
16-year-olds to cross the
oh, I
line.
wanted to say
But-
one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
That was just one of those funny things that people say, everybody wants to be a manifester until something goes wrong, and then they say, well, I didn't do that.
Okay, right, right.
Yeah.
And you said duality, but I don't believe in duality. I believe in the paradox, right? I believe like, well, isn't that interesting? Because it's the same cause that creates what we think is both the polarity of that.
Well, I'm just meaning it as the two-ness instead of the oneness, the duality. You have to be,
Two-ness.
you have to be in controversy with something, yourself or whatever, to be in the drama tetrahedron. And sorry, I put it up here. But to be in, you can't be in the oneness. But if you are in the oneness, there's no effect.
Okay.
You can't even like summon the verbalization of I don't really care. It's just not there. It's just like, oh, I'm in the, but you can be sucked into it. You can choose to go to the total drama island. But that whole duality, that's that duality. You have to have contention. You have to have controversy of some sort.
Where? What? Yeah.
Do you have to, do you?
No.
There's always something.
Do you have to have tension to heal?
You have to have tension, is what you said.
Tension to.
I said, do you have to have tension in order to heal? Does there have to be controversy?
No. I'm talking about the negative ideal.
Yeah.
Or so you're basically, your body's trying to heal and you're like, no, I'm sick.
Right.
There's that duality.
Okay.
There's that two-ness in that. To be in the oneness, well, no, I'm going to be healed.
Right.
No, I feel great. This is going to fix itself. My body is this. Of course, take some herbs and be smart about stuff, but
Right.
you know.
So what you're saying is that we're separate from our body?
Technically, well, we don't have a soul. We are a soul. We have a body.
I thought our body was our thought creation.
Well, you can't have one without the other. It's that whole weird dichotomy.
That's the paradox.
That paradox.
Hi, David. Yes, who had their hand up? Ginny.
I think one of the things that he mentioned somewhere, I'm not sure it's in this lecture or not, but until you understand the paradox, you can't move on. And this is what you're discussing. And it's important to really think about a paradox and a oneness.
Right.
And what you do with it, what your response, personal response is to it.
Right.
Exactly.
So everyone here is familiar with the 5 steps to treatment, right? How many of you read this chapter and took the suggestion to write a treatment? Yeah, that's what I thought. So let's do that. Let's take that moment and take a piece of paper. If you need a piece, I'll be happy to give you one.
I didn't see a suggestion to write a treatment in this chapter.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Oh, maybe that's in the teacher's manual.
This is going to be on the test.
No, but let's do that, because I do believe there's something, we're always wanting something new,
What's the
different.
purpose of the treatment?
Well, health.
Well,
Helps what?
Whatever that means to you, it could be
Treatment
health
for health.
financially, it could be health physically,
Oh,
it could
oh,
be
okay.
health emotionally. But what is that? And do you guys need a piece of paper, Drew? You guys, you're gonna do it on your phones?
I don't have a
Okay.
pen.
I need to.
Paper?
I got
We're totally high speed now, we've gone paperless.
Never mind. Thank you very much.
It's out of my notebook now.
I'll take it.
Okay.
She can put
Give me
hers back
one,
in
will
the
you,
clip.
David?
I got it.
Okay, I'll take the other one.
Oh, okay, take it, David
Thanks,
took them
David.
out.
There we go.
So do that, let's,
What are we
the
writing?
first step is to center, right? And know that you are one with Spirit, one with God. Is that right?
Right?
It is. The first step is to know that God is everything, actually. God is everything. God is in the ground that we walk on. God is in the air that we breathe. God is the mountains, and God is the sea. God is the drop of water from the rain. God is in everything. And then we are one with. I am that drop of rain as I drink the water. I'm the earth as I eat the food. As I walk on the soil, I'm one with that asphalt. Sit in my car, I'm one with my car.
And number 3.
Do you want me to continue talking, or do y'all want to
Yeah,
write?
keep doing it.
Or,
No, keep
and number
talking.
3 is, the third step is to know what it is that you're asking for is here, now, present. It is already so, because everything is God. It is here now, so. So as we're looking at healing our bodies, right, thought into body creates that manifestation. What is it that you want to heal in your life? This is different than the bookmark. This is right now, here, today. What would you like changed? And know it as already, write it as already being so. And on to 4.
well, give us a minute.
Gratitude?
People are asking for a moment. But you're going to get more time. And the 4th step is gratitude, to be grateful for this event in your life, for this happening for you right here, right now. You know it to be true, you're one with Spirit, Spirit is everything, and you know that that presence is here right now, that has manifested, it is here, always was. It hasn't come out of the blue, we haven't asked for it from God, it's already been here and we acknowledge it as so.
Well, mine's coming out of the blue.
Okay?
Literally.
That is good. And then we release it to law. And laws are the principle,
Oh,
that parts of what Troward talks about. The principles that Ernest Holmes talks about
Well, now,
is just law.
in
that law
Troward's,
is.
does he do the 4th and 5th step?
What was 2 again?
He kind of runs things together, but he doesn't break them out like science minds.
Well, because I know Ernest stops at 3,
No,
and then that was added later.
Right,
Yeah.
but we're science of mind, so I'm adding the 4th and the 5th.
What was number 2?
Because
there's a wonderful book that has
We
all
are one
9
everything.
steps.
We are
It's
one.
good,
One
too.
with everything.
So the first part of the science of mind treatment is knowing that God is everything. And there's the abbreviated version of all this. God is, I am, what is it? I know, thank you, and goodbye. That's the abbreviated version. So you're writing that you know God is everything, and you know that you are one with God. You're grateful for this condition to be changed, or that whatever it was that you initially thought, that it is exactly what you desired, exactly what it is right now, because it's already been so. Just waiting for your recognition of it. And your gratitude is for that recognition that it's present in your life now, and then you release it to love. And when you're done, let's go ahead and take a break and come back at 8 o'clock. Or 8:05 if for the people still writing.
You're gonna come back at 2 different times?
Yeah, because if we could keep
Our
you
spirit will be here, Breezy.
if we could keep you talking, then the time will expire and we won't have to do the assignment.
Oh, yes.
I was in the hallway a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna stop taping for a few minutes.
Okay, so how does that feel to write a treatment for yourself? That's not something I think that we normally do. Even when I'm journaling, I don't always, it doesn't come out in this formal 5-step process. So how does that feel for people? Practitioners in training, we have to do that repeatedly. So it might be a little different for you, but even now that you're out of it, how does it feel? Pardon?
I love writing treatments.
Okay,
Makes me feel really good.
okay. How did other people feel?
Okay. I do a dream mandala version. I just make a mandala every day and put my affirmation outside. Here's little spirals to God, and then how it manifests, and the thankfulness, and it's released, and it's surrounded by love, and
That's
so
beautiful.
it is. And it's whole, complete right now.
Right, that's beautiful.
There you go.
How do other people feel about doing that?
I think it makes it more real. It's easier to activate or feel like it's being activated because I'm using my own language and my own point of references in my mind and in myself to do what I need to do. So I like that.
Okay. How would you feel about sharing that with someone else in a small group? Would you want to break into small groups and share, or do you want to stay in the large group? You have a definite no going on over here.
I'm with her on that. I'd rather just share if you're going to share, or if not, just
Okay.
ask.
Okay. So here's another question with that. Let's forget the small group stuff then. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's not going to happen.
Don't break yourself.
I could see it happening right before my eyes.
No way.
No, I'm joking. Train of thought. Just left the station.
Do you go through a doorway?
I wish I could say that something like, Christy used to go squirrel, but it's not that. It's just flat, It just goes blank for me. I don't get distracted, I
It's
think.
contagious.
It's CRS.
What is that?
I can't remember.
Oh, that.
You'd probably treat for that.
Is there someone who would, oh, I remember. Is there someone who would like to share what you wrote? Would you like to read it out loud?
Yeah. What I
Okay.
did is I wrote down your steps and just based on the step how I interpret it for myself.
Okay.
So God is favor, I am favor, I know favor, and it's here. Thank you for this realignment. It is written.
Nice. That's very nice. Very, direct. Would anyone else like to share what they wrote? I can usually outweigh the class. Jamie.
Every cell in my body is full of light. And light translates to health as a principle, for which I am thankful. Thank you very much. I release that to the law and the light.
That is very nice as well, and very direct too. Yes? Drew?
If we're gonna play intellectual dodgeball, can I be on her team?
You may. All of us can be on Jenny's team. Just saying. It's a winning team. Anyone else like to share? How many times do we do a treatment for the same thing?
Repeatedly.
Is it ever really the same thing, or does it change?
Sometimes it does change, I believe.
I would suggest that it's not a repeated treatment for the same thing. That because there's some different level of awareness that we have. So, well, Holmes says sometimes we hear all sorts of different things. Treat and move your feet, treat and let it go and don't think of it again, treat until something happens, right? It's a kind of inconsistent what we're told. We're told different things in practitioner training. You know, we have discussions, how many times do we treat? You know, do we continue to treat for someone after a Sunday service? Oh no, you're supposed to just, you know, release it and let it go. And it's like, really? Really? Or, you know, how many times do we treat for ourselves? Well, how many times do we claim oneness with spirit and yet still have that hesitation? Yeah. Jenny. And then someone here raised their hand, and then Tom.
Someone mentioned Buddha, and actually it was my daughter who sent me an article by a researcher who said that Buddha, and they discovered, in his so-called enlightenment, did not tell a soul for 6 weeks, because what he had been told was a process, and the process included when you're feeling something. He didn't say thinking. When you're feeling something, stay with the feeling and don't let it go. But if it lasts more than 90 seconds, for example, a minute and a half, it's old stuff that's coming up and needs to be dealt with and not buried once again.
Right.
Because it all sticks. So he tried it out for 6 weeks. He found how cleverly it worked. And then he started telling the men who were waiting for him to talk to him. And he told them, this is a process. Let's practice it.
Right. Right. That's a really good point. Because if something continues to recur, maybe there's something back of that really is the cause, right? That thought process that Troward calls cause. Someone here had their hand, but I'm going to go with Sue right now because
he says something in the book that really struck me. I was looking for it, but I just couldn't find it.
in this chapter.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know who was this chapter, but anyway, just in talking about doing things over and over again, what he said, he placed such emphasis on doing the inside work, the repetition. What he said was, you can't really expect writing an affirmation here and there to get results. Doing, you didn't call it a treatment, but here and there when you feel like it. Because something has to build up. A connection has to be made that stays in place at a time that you really need it to come through. So I would say that even repeating something again and again and again, and saying, you know, I've been doing it twice a day, 3 times a day, no results, how long should I keep on doing this? It's not about that. It's about really getting to the core of it, to that place where there is a real connection being made with the subjective mind that can go out there and really make a difference. But it doesn't happen overnight. And with all the conditioning in the way that needs to be, you know, like, dissipated, it's not that simple. So people go to it doesn't work. But it's provable, you know, in his language, that it does work. But you have to be in that connected place, and the only way to be there is to practice over and over and over again. I imagine some of these masters like Troward or, you know, doing this like all day, you know? And making that connection, and then it's instantaneous. But not without the other stuff. It's not magic, it's science.
And that repetition goes back to the feeling that Jenny is talking about, you know, when you can touch what it is that you're requesting. Actually, he says each succeeding treatment strengthens the subconscious mind. And so if it's repetitive, it still is different because we're different. The level of pain that we're experiencing might be different. We just want it gone. but it's still a different pain, right?
But it also goes to your original question, what you said earlier, are you looking for God or to get something from God?
Right.
So the repetition, I'm looking to get something, without doing the work, I'm looking for something.
Without doing the work.
Without doing the work of actually finding and connecting with God.
Right, and the work that we're doing in here is that we're learning principles, right? That's why I keep going over and over and over some of these things. So does Troward, but I'm kind of reiterating what he says.
One of the things I've discovered is that repetition in the conscious mind
Right.
is not sufficient. The body has to be relaxed, and you deep breathe, and you get the brain more in the alpha level rather than the beta level. And now you are in a receptive mode, and it works 10 times better and faster.
I agree.
He talks about treating for other people and it working better when you and they are asleep. Of course, there's no barriers.
Right.
Yep.
So actually Tom and then Valerie. I wanted to call you Frances for some reason. It's not your name, is it, Frances? What's your name?
Adabi.
And you can speak up any time. What did Adabi?
Adabi.
Adabi. Okay. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the class. I hadn't welcomed you yet. So, and then Tom.
And then
Tom, go ahead.
Tom and then Troward and Valerie.
I'm going to speak now. I don't really get into the intellectual aspect that much. I like it there, but to me the subconscious responds to feelings and symbols.
Right.
And I work out of the tree of life. And I treat whenever I have the feeling that something is necessary. If I perceive a healing in myself or someone else, I surround them in green, because green is the energy of Venus, and Venus is a healing energy of the earth and whatever. And so I just do that, and I have different color for everything, and I just do that automatically. And I've always believed that as long as you hold a positive attitude, it always works out. Had that since 1963.
Okay.
So that's how it works for me.
And here you are, so it
And
must
here I
have
am.
worked, because it's worked since '63. That's great. You were all the way here. This was where you were meant to be.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Drew?
Oh, I was just wanting to comment on what you were saying with the deeper levels. It's almost like TM going into like Edgar Casey, incidentally, I dated his screening. But Edgar Casey, his brother built DeLand, Florida. But he went into this like sleeping state of meditation TM. He was able to access the Akashic record and the all-knowing and everything like that. And other scientists like around the world, great inventors like Tesla that they don't talk about in school, accessing that part of your intellect, whatever you call it, getting deeper in to change that programming internal monologue that's still resounding from all the garbage, getting deeper into that relaxed state and being more focused with it, it literally, to me, for me, and I guess a lot of others, actually has more of a reset value, more of a, I'm changing that. So the only way to get out of the drama tetrahedron, or whatever life is throwing at you, health, blah, 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 whatever, to be in the oneness, to get out, to be impervious to that, or to be centered, to be one with God, that is the ultimate key to access more of that subconscious.
Right.
I mean, to me, to my mind.
Okay.
And it seems to have worked a lot. I got buckets full of pennies. It's an inside thing, but yeah.
Okay.
Buckets full of pennies, literally.
Okay. Bucket full of pennies.
I wasn't asking for money.
Okay.
But there was a recurring theme in the back of my strange little mind, because there's clowns back, there's clowns back there and some weird music going
So
on.
it's like a
there's,
clown car.
yeah, so there's always some comically weird stuff going by in the back of my head, no matter what's going on, you know. So the song Pennies from Heaven kept like kind of like shoot in, and that's what's been happening since the first course here. They're all, I just put most of them along Patrick's thing up on his porch, and it's just nothing but pennies, and I just keep everywhere, buckets of pennies. So I wasn't treating for money. What?
I'm just gonna go on.
Pennies,
Okay.
go ahead.
Because it kind of can tie into this, because what we need to do, he says, is we must therefore withdraw our thought from the contemplation of the symptoms, and indeed from the corporeal, thank you, personality altogether, and think of him as a purely spiritual individuality. He says, as a purely spiritual individuality, and as such, entirely free from subjection to any conditions, and consequently, as voluntarily externalizing the conditions most expressive of the vitality and intelligence that pure spirit is. And he's actually talking about when we treat for someone else, but it's necessary when we treat for ourselves too, because we're not actually focusing on the pain in my knee to be removed. I'm really looking at mobility and ease and grace. In my mind, that's what I'm looking at when my knee is hurting, or my feet or something, my lower back, or so. And at the same time, with all of those physical conditions that we're looking at with healing, it's kind of going past and beyond the overt symptoms, even for ourselves. Like, if there's a headache, if there's snot running out of your nose, or if there's something else going on, what is that? What is going on? And that's what we treat for. Right? We all know that. This is not anything new. I'm just restating what we have heard every Sunday since you started coming here. Right? So when you're looking at it that way, then what we need, how can we, this is the question. This is the question.
What about, I love that previous question.
What?
What about comments from the previous question?
Okay, let's go back.
Oh, well, you had said her in the line. And
Oh, I did, and then I didn't call on you. I apologize.
That's all good. That's all good.
I got excited.
Doesn't take much to.
Keeps the room nice and warm. I think that when people write books about experiences, they resonate with people that think that way in most cases. So for someone, they could say, you know, just to make a connection in order for you to be able to be a successful treat, they may say, well, just draw a circle, you know, in the sand and put all your thoughts in it, and if that resonates with you, then it works.
Right.
I don't think that it absolutely has to be one set of rules. All we know is that it has to have emotion, has some kind of feelings involved.
Exactly.
We know it has to be a connection, and that can be in any form. I can go on, and we don't have the time for me to go on. Okay. But one of the things I can remember is when I was in school in electronics, which I've always had been not the most math-savvy student, but I went into the DeVry, was doing great with an associate's degree in electronics, which was nothing but math. But I will tell you, I was one of the most prayerful suckers for anything that happened, so we didn't have an exam or whatever, because I just, like, oh my God. And I would take literally, I'll be like, okay, what I feel, I want something to happen, so I don't want to take that exam, I just don't feel like it. I would literally just get a sheet of paper, and somehow, for some reason, there's some connection there that says, oh, if I just drew this on this sheet of paper, I won't have to. And I can't tell you how many times I've done right at the moment, know nothing, and something works out just the way I want it to. Then there's other times I go right back to that same way, well, I'm gonna just draw something, because it worked last time, and I'm trying to draw, and guess what? Not a dang thing happens. So it's all based on what you connect with psychically and emotionally at the time. That is the energy that creates. But to do it at every will, every time I want something, that's an issue for me.
Okay, good. That's a nice kind of summing of things that we've talked about tonight as well. Go ahead.
I think I would like to bring in a divine timing aspect.
Okay.
Say like if I want, you know, I can do the instant magic like she's talking about, or if it's something that needs more work, I'll do something like this. And I put it in a box, and you know, and then like, you know, sometime later, if it shows up, then I know, okay, this is the time to like act on it, or this,
Yes.
I'm gonna see it manifesting now.
Yes, I've done
That kind of thing. And that's kind of my way of judging what the divine timing is. 'Cause
Yes.
sometimes there's more people involved or something else that needs to work
Okay.
out.
All right.
I love the divine timing thing,
Yeah.
because you can treat or manifest, whatever you're calling it, it's ancient magic. I've studied magic in every form since I was 9 years old. I was reading Aleister Crowley at 12.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to wind in.
Blah, 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 okay, I'll wind in, but divine timing, it's like, yes, it's gotta be from your mouth, and you gotta put a rock, do push-ups to focus the pain, and all. When you get to that, you're focusing that on the voice. What John talks about, it's gotta be from the voice, from the mouth. You have to speak it, you have to make, you know, do, and with emotion, and that's that key. But then you got divine timing, where it's like, wait a minute, okay, yes, divine and the universe is, yeah, we'll give you what you want, but we've gotta like refabric time for a second here and make everything, you just hold on for a second, you know, that kind of thing. It's that divine timing. That,
Okay,
you know, it's
I
like,
think that was a great
it
point,
has to-
Charlie.
I think that what you've experienced, like an instant healing or something like that, which I did in 1982, I was between marriages, and I met this woman and got to be good friends with her, and I told her, I said, I think I'm getting ready to catch a cold or something. She said, why would you want to do that?
Wow.
And I thought, I'd never heard anybody say that, so I don't want to do that. It's just something that happens to me. She said, how often do you get a cold? I said, 4 or 5 times a year. She said, I know you've been teaching Dale Carnegie speaking classes for like 12 years, and you love it. How many times have you been sick with a cold and couldn't teach a class? I said, never. I've never missed a class.
Right.
She said, then it's a choice, not a disease. Why don't you just choose not to have colds? I haven't had a cold since.
Right.
Wow.
It made so much sense.
Yeah.
And occasionally I feel one coming on, and I just said, nah, I don't do that. I also take a little vitamin C and some magnesium, but I don't do cold.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's, to me, when you say divine timing, and the divine timing could be, and I'm not saying it is, but it could be an excuse for not letting the good come in right now.
Right, right. I just want you guys all to know that you're ruining my question. I just want you to know. I just want to say that out loud and take responsibility for my own behavior if I start pouting. But Jenny.
I just wanted Tom to know that Thomas Troward was also an artist who loved to paint. And I think it's a meditation in itself. And whatever you're drawing or doing, you are meditating actually, because you're clearing your head of other things that are not important. And you're getting to a visual that's important to you.
Right.
And that's a good way to meditate too. You
The
don't
same
have to-
thing as gardening.
You're in that
I
zone.
do the same thing. I'm gardening, I'm so focused, and that's when I'm happiest.
Yeah.
And everything else goes.
That's right.
Want to ask you a question before we screw it up anymore?
Oh, go for it. I've got it. I got it. I took
I was amazed that
responsibility
you
of
screw up
never
in that
leave
chapter.
now.
You screw up in that chapter, those very words.
Yeah, sometimes he can be quite cynical. I think he's funny, actually. I might go, it's funny. When I'm reading Troward, I do. Because he can be very like so on point with that kind of comment, right?
Well, I'll just share a personal experience. A couple of years ago, I had a very severe skin condition, and as a nurse, I had been taught that it's impossible for that to be cured. So if I analyzed it and tried to figure out, well, what in my subconscious made me get this, and why, why is this and why is that, then I was not thinking healing. And so I was putting more energy into the condition. So I just knew, and I have had other practitioners helping me with it, so I just knew that that was going to heal. And I used some natural things too, use my intuition. So it's healed and it's never come back. And I don't care, what the intellectual cause of it was. I don't care about that. I'm just happy and grateful that it's healed. And I'm happy. And that's all that matters to me.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. That is the question, actually. Like people's I was getting so excited to be able to facilitate a discussion on people's personal healing experiences within this thought process. And you all started talking about it anyway. I was so excited. I'm because I know we've all had them, and everyone's already talking about them.
It's like it happened organically. What a coincidence.
Synchronicity, divine intervention. So, does anyone else want to share? Yeah.
Got a weird one. It was on the instantaneous
Weird?
feeling level. Yeah. I was welding.
And all of it's positive white light.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
It was weirdly wonderful. I was welding. My welding rod slipped, went into my eyeball, burnt my eyeball. I mean, seriously, bad. I went home, oh, I gotta go to the doctor, and I drank some orange juice. And my wife said, "Don't drink the orange juice." I said, "Why not?" "Well, there's magic mushrooms in it." And so then I was sipping on magic mushrooms, and I became an American Indian and ran out into the woods and found my healing spot and said, "Wonka Tonka, I've been wounded." And this voice said, "You've been broken, but you will heal." And this little branch popped up, and my eye cleared up instantaneously like nothing had ever happened.
Okay. That's a
Can't top
good
that.
story, but I'm going to ask for people to stay focused on science and mind principles, because that's what this class is in relation to Troward.
Well, I'm not that person who, I
Right.
believe in bringing everything in, so.
Well, that's exactly what it is, but when I ask that question, I'm not just kind of randomly asking for experiences. I'm seriously asking for people who are practicing these kind of principles in their life right now, and how has that affected you? Right.
I have an objection.
Yes, sir.
Can
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because, well, I don't want to feel like I'm in a cult where well, it has to be, we are the science of mind people, and it must be like this, and you can't have any other religions or, ideas or chemicals or any of that, because we're just going to do this, we're just going to focus it this way, and because of that, I feel outed a lot.
Okay.
That I am being suppressed by that.
Okay.
That it's like a mindset, and it's we only focus on what's been written by the science mind people. That's a separation for me. That's
Okay.
I don't feel good.
I hear that. I do.
And I don't know.
I think it's just because that's what this class is.
Well,
I don't think anybody's gonna argue that there are plenty of other ways to heal.
Right, well, but there's so much expansion. Every religion, they all fit together in this perfect, thing, but we're not allowed to like bring it in and see how it all fits
I
together.
can see what you're saying, and I do understand what you're saying,
Uh-huh.
but actually,
yeah.
Tom, this whole class has been about all of it does fit together. Thomas Troward is Christian,
Right.
you know, and as is Goldsmith, who I quote frequently, and then Hopkins, who's My Good is My God, was Christian Scientist before she became New Thought. What I'm saying is that we are looking at Troward. I'm looking at my stuff, which kind of directs me in conversation. And boy, experiences, I think every one of us can talk about these amazing spiritual experiences. I talked about mine on Cumberland Island, which really wasn't related to healing, but related to healing my faith.
Okay.
So I totally understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And I don't mean to,
Right.
I would hope that people don't feel oppressed or repressed in this class.
Right. Well,
But
this is the caveat.
I am going to continue to redirect the conversation back to Science of Mind, Thomas Troward, and the mystics that we're studying for the class.
I just, I guess this is the catch.
Okay.
I don't want to feel coerced into having to say, I got it all from the Science of Mind.
Oh.
I feel like that happens to me here.
Oh, it can't all come from Science of Mind. Science of Mind's only been around half of the time. New Thought's been around.
God is all there is. It can't find
Yeah, I appreciate you raising that issue, but we're going to go on.
I just would like to add something here, only because that has come with, to me also, but Science of Mind comes from the Hindu, going back 500 years before Christ, or 5,000 or whatever. All of this is everything.
Absolutely.
And if it isn't everything, then it's nothing.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we've been saying tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it includes everything.
I've read 4 biographies on Ernest Holmes. He would go to bed at night, at the normal going to bed time, everybody else, and people said no one ever stayed up late enough to see when the light was turned off in his room, because he would be reading well into the night. No one really ever knew how long he studied. He studied other religions, other philosophies.
He was inspired by Sri Aurobindo.
Right.
And he didn't mean to start.
How many
Science of
people
Mind.
here actually practice something, let's just say, practice something outside of the Science of Mind Foundation? We all do. That's what makes it New Thought, right? Because, and that's what we talked about this in the very beginning. It's like if we stay with exactly what Troward wrote in 1905, then we're staying in the past. We have to take what he says and bring it into our lives right now, and that's how I was directing that conversation. And again, it was not meant to discount your experience. Okay, yes?
You're totally accepted and respected enough.
We love you, Tom.
But I'm
going to stop it again. I'm stopping it again because this is crosstalk, and this kind of crosstalk just can feed and build on itself. So we're going to stop this conversation. If you're going to respond to Tom, or we're not going to respond to Tom anymore, we're moving on with the class. All right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it that we're taking too long with our experiences? Maybe we need to shorten our experiences?
I don't understand your question.
What I'm asking is, for your class, is it possible that we're talking too much about our experiences that it's eating up our class?
No, I don't believe that's true. I would like people who haven't shared to share, and I'll be, monitoring that as we go to make sure everyone's got enough time to talk. But no, not at all. You had your hand up.
I was just going to explain what she was meaning.
Oh, okay. I think she was clear. It was good.
Gotta translate.
My translator.
That takes it back to basics.
I've discussed and observed.
Pardon?
I've discussed and shared my observations of this teaching. I haven't shared what happened. Some may know, some may not. We've all had trauma in our lives. I came here to this very room, this very spot. I was special operations and a lot of nasty places. and I came here I was drugged here by someone, to watch some weirdos walk on fire.
Yeah.
I got drawn into it, and apparently I wound up walking fire too. And I wasn't looking for mine. I knew the fire was hot.
What's the point?
And the point was, with that exercise and all of the things that I already knew, but didn't, want to be honest with, because you got to be brutally honest, which is not all that wonderful sometimes. I look for peace. I look for healing. And this place, these people, these weirdos, this cult, whatever, beautiful, amazing people, was the little step that I needed to get some inner peace and get some healing for more. And that's worth more than any kind of stack of gold bars you can ever think of. So that's why I wasn't trading for money.
Right.
I got tons of bank.
You got a bucket of pennies.
I got more than that.
Anyone over here? Everyone good? Okay. So, that was good. Okay. So, what it all says is that principle is not bound by precedent. Right? Just because our past, just because we've always believed, just because we fall down and we think, oh, that means my leg is hurt, or I have a scrape on my arm, or whatever, I have a stomach ache, it doesn't mean it has to be anything from our past. Is that we continually recreate our future. And that's what this chapter was all about. Was taking us back to that very basic point of principle is not bound by precedent, and that's just Thomas Troward in a nutshell. So we're going to end, but I want to remind you that next week there is no class. I'll be in Minnesota, but we're going to pick it up, and the class agreed to extend it to the 28th. So, pardon?
She just said sweet.
Sweet. So I hope you come back. And let me think, there was something else. Again, my mind down. But is there anything that anyone wants to add before we close?
I was looking for clarity on that. Were you saying that physical things can happen just because, even if you're in zone?
I believe life continues around us, even if we're in the zone, and then we can walk into it and we learn something. That it's not always some negative idea that we've been carrying around behind us. Sometimes we're at a point where sometimes I'm at a point where I need to expand my awareness, and I think everything's going great, everything in my life is quite wonderful, and yet I have a student who challenges me, and it's like, wow, that was good. That was a great thing, right? So I think that it has nothing really to do with me, and yet it has nothing to do with him either. It's just something I learned about myself. That's what I think. It's not always a cause and effect. Sometimes it just is. It's just life. It's just God happening. Because God's recreating everywhere outside of me. I'm just one essence of that whole entire thing. Does that make sense? What do you think?
I'm not sure.
Pardon?
I'm not sure. But I often think about this stuff. It's like, where is it? We are in like this video game is kind of like what I see it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this one world, and these are your weapons, and this is what you can do, You're not going to change.
Right.
The seasons and the sunrise, so where does it end?
Right. It's how you play in those games, though. Right. And we talked about that, I think, in the very first class, we talked about that according to Goffman, Erwin Goffman, from communication theory, I'm stepping outside of science and mind, but Goffman believes that we play to three audiences. We play to ourselves, we play to the person in front of us in our immediate circle, and then we play to the perception of those around us, even though we don't actually acknowledge them individually. And so we're always in a play working on old scripts. Even if we're just getting out of our car at Ingalls, we look around and we see who's around, who might be watching us. We might smile, we might not, we might just get out of our car, but the way we get out of our car is different because someone is watching us than it is if they're not. We just play to them through old scripts. Yes?
To me, it's like that conscious or unconscious, it's always working.
Yes.
It's bidden or unbidden, the plaque.
Right.
It's always present. And it's like, it's always there, it's always working, whether you're intellectualizing it or emotionalizing it, it's already there.
Right.
It's just how, I guess, how you feel you're playing and how you're interacting.
Right.
Which is amazing.
What's your role in the game? And what do you want it to be? And how fast do you want to be able to run?
Or re-choose.
Or re-choose.
Miss Edinburgh, pardon, if you're done, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm good, I'm good.
You're done.
Okay.
Does Thomas Troward say anything about past lives? Does he feel like we have any causes now from something of another life? Like karma?
I don't know if he does or not. Charlie's more of an expert. I don't think so. He touches on telepathy and hypnosis as key for the subconscious, but I don't believe he actually discusses past life type of things. Good question.
And Ernest Holmes didn't believe in reincarnation or past lives, so
Okay.
it just,
But he went and tested all those people. He went and studied.
oh yeah,
them.
he researched it.
He researched.
In fact, before he died, he said we should have, we should be open at the top after he was gone because things change. So he encouraged us.
Goes in, goes around. I'm going to ask Selena to do our closing treatment, and then we'll take the.
Will we do it now?
Yeah, and then we'll do the. Just wind us all up together here, if you would.
And as our time together comes to a close, I'm so grateful for each person who has taken the time from their busy lives to come together, to share, to go deeper into our beliefs, our feelings, our knowings. And I know that everyone has received exactly what they needed from this class. And as we go forward, I know that we shine our light a little brighter, and we are all blessed, and all is well. And I release my word into the law, knowing that it always says yes, and so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. And if we can just hold that consciousness, please, while we distribute these.
Selena, can I see you from the
Let's hold up consciousness, please. And then, and this is what I know. I know that there is so much blessing in these baskets, and I know that there is so much blessing here, and that what comes here goes in and through us and out into the world, and we change the world as we reach out and touch each other and everyone we come in contact with. I know that that is true, and that this symbol of energy only manifests that love which we share. And thank you, and so it is.
So it is.